Welcome back to the Curious Kid Podcast. Our family just returned from a fun 4-day road trip to Niagara Falls. People travel from all around the world to see Niagara Falls, which are beautiful waterfalls on the border of the United States and Canada. While we were there, we did so many fun things. We took an elevator to the top of Skylon Tower, which is a 775-foot tower with amazing views of the surrounding area. We took a boat ride that allowed us to get so close to the waterfalls that we got soaking wet. We took a tunnel, hundreds of feet underground, to learn how the energy from the waterfalls is converted to electricity. There are so many fun things to do in Niagara Falls, and one of those things is to walk through the caves behind the waterfalls. Caves are super interesting and mysterious places, so let's learn more about them.
Mailbag!
Mailbag! Hi, my name is Miles, age 5, and I am writing from Columbia, Missouri. I love your podcast and listen every night before bed. I would love it if you could do an episode on caves and all the creatures that live in them. Caves are one of my favorite things. Thanks, Miles and family.
Miles, we weren't going to get curious about caves, but then we saw your amazing email and we caved in. We can't wait to learn all about caves and the creepy crawlies that live in caves for you this week.
Let's kick things off with the question of the week.
The longest and deepest caves in the world are both located in the United States. The question of the week is, in which states can you find the longest and deepest caves in the world? Hint, the longest and deepest caves are located in different states.
Here's the good news. There are 50 states, so even if you randomly pick one, you have a 2% chance of getting each answer right. I think many of us might have an idea of what a cave is, but let's learn more about them and how they are formed.
A cave is a place underground that is hollow and large enough for a person to enter. Caves come in all different sizes, with some of them being barely big enough for a human to fit in, while others are hundreds of miles long.
Caves typically form from water reacting with rock. Most caves are solution caves, which are formed from a rock called limestone.
Limestone is a soft rock, which means that it starts to break down when it comes into contact with water. So, if you have water constantly flowing over or through limestone, the limestone will slowly dissolve and crack. When this continues to happen over a long period of time, the limestone dissolves so much and the cracks become so large that people can enter through those cracks.
Caves can also form from other rocks, including dolomite and marble. In order for rocks to form caves, the rocks just have to be soft enough that they will dissolve when they come into contact with water.
Caves can also form from lava, which is a melted rock that flows out of volcanoes. If the lava on the top layer cools and hardens, the lava underneath continues to flow away. A cave may form.
There are other ways caves can form too, like from earthquakes that leave cracks large enough for people to enter.
After a cave is formed, water continues dripping into the cave. The minerals from the water can stick to the floor or the ceiling of the cave and grow over time. Stalagmites are mineral formations that form from the ground facing up. If the mineral formations point down from the ceiling, they are called stalactites. Sometimes stalagmites and stalactites can actually come together, and when they do, a column is formed inside the cave.
There are many caves out there. Lots of them have been explored, while many remain untouched. There are people that are highly trained in dealing with the extreme environments that can be found in caves. They explore caves to learn more about them. Sometimes, these cave explorers are called cavers, but they have a much more fun name too. They often go by the name spelunkers.
Caves have been used by humans for thousands of years. There are caves in Europe with drawings of animals, and those drawings were made at least 15,000 years ago. People love to visit caves in beautiful places like Niagara Falls. With some caves, no special equipment is needed to walk through. Other caves may require light and other equipment to walk through safely.
Our pal, Miles, who suggested we get curious about caves, mentioned creatures that live in the caves. When I think of caves, I usually think bats. But there are so many other interesting animals that live in caves too.
Bats usually live in caves during the day, and then they come out at night to feast. But there are also animals that stay in the caves and never come out. Because they stay in dark caves, they have interesting adaptations that make them different from other animals. For example, many cave-dwelling animals have clear skin and don't have eyes. Caves are home to blind insects, spiders, and salamanders.
Even though cave animals may not have eyes, so they can't see around, they have other special adaptations that allow them to overcome that obstacle. Cave insects, for example, usually have longer antennae than insects that don't live in caves. That allows them to feel around the cave so they know what's around them. Some cave animals can even use the vibrations in the caves to help determine their surroundings. Animals that live in caves are called troglobites. There are so many fascinating animals that can be found in the caves around the world that there simply isn't enough time to discuss all of them. So we picked 5 of the ones we found most interesting.
There is an animal called the olm, and it can be found in the caves of Croatia and Slovenia. This strangely cute creature is a salamander that is white and has eyes that are completely covered by skin. In some ways, the olm resembles an axolotl. It's actually a distant relative of the axolotl. There are only about 400 of them worldwide. Even though the skin of an olm is white or light pink, the skin will turn dark if it's taken out of a cave, and then it will return to its normal color if returned to the cave. An olm can survive without eating for 6 years. I can survive without eating for about 6 hours, maybe less.
Next up is the cave pseudoscorpion. This more terrifying creature is kind of a cross between a spider and a scorpion. They are related to camel spiders, which are harmless but also kind of gross, spiders that can be found outside of caves. I've even been fortunate enough to see camel spiders right here where we live in New Jersey. Scientists recently discovered a new species of pseudoscorpion that has venom in its claws in Yosemite National Park. It turns out that the venom is strong enough to harm small prey, like the insects the pseudoscorpion eats, but is harmless to humans.
The devil's hole pupfish is a fish that can only be found in a cavern in Death Valley National Park in California, which is America's hottest and driest national park. They live in a pool within a cavern, and the water in the pool is 93 degrees and has very little oxygen. The extreme environment makes it hard for just about any creature besides the devil's hole pupfish to survive in. They are called pupfish because they are very playful, like puppies. This special fish has been around for at least 22,000 years, but very few exist today. Estimates from earlier this year suggest that there are less than 200 devil's hole pupfish alive today. Thankfully, conservation efforts have been successful, and the number of devil's hole pupfish are on the rise.
Another interesting cave animal is the cave crayfish. They can be found around the world, but they are very common in Alabama and Florida. They adapted to the lack of food supply by developing super slow metabolisms. That means that they don't need a lot of food to survive. Their slow metabolisms are responsible for allowing them to live very long lives. Some reports have cave crayfish living as long as 176 years. Like many other cave-dwelling animals, cave crayfish are blind and very light in color and have long antennae, especially compared to crayfish that live outside of caves.
My award for the most interesting cave animal goes to New Zealand glowworms. Even though they are called glowworms, they are actually flies. What makes them so interesting? Well, they are able to make a very sticky web that hangs from the ceiling of caves. Those webs make a blue light that helps illuminate the caves. Insects get attracted to the light and then get trapped in the web. Then it's feast time for the New Zealand glowworm.
Okay, now that we know how caves are formed and we learned about some cool cave creatures, it's time to hear from Noah with 5 unbelievable facts you need to know about caves. Take it away, Noah.
Fact number 1. Scientists estimate that there are more caves around the world that have not been discovered than the ones that we already know about. Some think that as many as 99% of the world's caves have not been discovered yet. Fact number 2. Tennessee has more explored caves than any other state in the United States, with over 10,000 explored caves. That is about 20% of the total number of caves that have been discovered in the United States. Fact number 3. Caves can be very, very dark. If we are in a dark room, our eyes can adjust to the darkness, allowing us to see. For example, if you sleep in a dark room and you have to use the bathroom in the middle of the night, you are probably able to get to the bathroom without turning the light on because your eyes have been adjusted to the dark room. In caves, your eyes will not be able to adjust in the darkness. That's why spelunkers are always sure to have a light source with them when exploring caves. Fact number 4. Limestone is formed from dead animals. When animals like clams and coral die, they sink to the ocean floor, where calcium carbonate can be found. When the sea retreats, a layer of limestone is left on the ocean floor. Limestone is the most common rock found in caves. Fact number 5. If you discover a cave, you usually get to name the cave. That's not always the case, but in most states in the United States, it's true. With so many caves still undiscovered, being able to name a cave is not crazy, as it might sound. Of course, before you start to discover wild caves, you need to be trained in all of the safety measures you need to take in the extreme conditions found in caves.
Wow, Noah, those were 5 unbelievable facts about caves indeed. Thanks for sharing them with us. Now to answer the question of the week. Olivia, which states are home to the longest and deepest discovered caves in the world?
The longest cave system is Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. It has over 400 miles of explored paths. If you stretch it all out, it's more than twice as long as New Jersey, the state I live in. The deepest cave is Veronia Cave in Georgia. It's over 7,200 feet, or about 2,200 meters deep. Because it is so deep, lots of safety measures need to be taken when exploring it.
As much as dark places with strange animals interests me, I think I'm going to stay out of caves for now, even if it means that I won't be able to name a cave. That's a wrap for this week's episode.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's podcast, number 273, on caves.
Great job, Olivia, and great job, Miles, for the episode topic suggestion that was so much fun to research and record here in my man cave. Join us next week when we will get curious about shoes for listeners in New York, Florida, and places unknown. As always, thank you so much for listening and getting curious with us.